South Park for the Nintendo 64 was released on December 21st, 1998. It was South Park's very first foray into gaming. The show at the time was brand new and was making big waves to say the least. So naturally, many wanted to capitalize on its rapidly growing popularity. And what better way to do that than to make a rushed game and release it just in time for Christmas? It's no secret that this game was met with lukewarm reception, and many believe that South Park 64 is nothing short of awful. I played this game all the way back when it came out. I was about 9 years old at the time, but I do have vague memories of finding it somewhat enjoyable. Was I just a naive little boy, or is there a decent game underneath all that criticism? Well, that's what we're going to find out today as we take another look at South Park 64 to see if it's truly earned its reputation of being awful. I do want to mention before we start, I will be playing this game on an emulator. I do actually own the game, I just don't have all the hardware necessary to capture footage from an actual Nintendo 64 console, so this seemed like the easiest and least painful approach. Anyways, let's get into it. First things first, we need to pick our character, and of course we have our choice between the four main boys: Cartman, Kyle, Stan, and Kenny. It's a cool menu. They're at the iconic bus stop and they all say a few lines when you hover over them.
I'm gonna show you how to kick ass!
Personally, Kenny is my favorite, but since he really only mumbles, and I like to hear the voice lines, I choose Stan. Each section of this game is introduced with the episode and stage number, along with a brief description of the objective. We then see a short cutscene where Chef rolls up and tells the boys about a big comet headed their way, and a lot of spooky things that are about to happen.
Spooky like how?
Spooky like you better get your asses indoors, children. I'm not kidding. Our lives are in danger!
Chef is literally the vehicle of exposition in this game, but in the early days of South Park, Chef was always the boys' go-to guy for help or advice, so the choice to do it this way just makes sense. And now we're immediately in the game. We're cruising around the old neighborhood and we need to find our friends. Our starting weapon is a snowball. The ammo is infinite and it fires at a decent rate. I love when a game just lets you loose very quickly, and doesn't bother to hold your hand through endless tutorials or make you sit through 30 minutes of dialogue. And my god, look at that view fog. That is on par with Silent Hill, but Silent Hill was going for a spooky aesthetic. I would imagine the reasoning for this is to make the game run more smoothly, but it's definitely jarring the first time you see it. Also, these controls are pretty much atrocious. Aiming is somehow super stiff and jumpy at the same time, and the non-existent aiming reticle pulls itself back to the center of the frame upon letting go of the control stick. So I can already tell that aiming with precision is going to be a challenge. The only thing that feels halfway decent is the actual character's movement. It's honestly hard to gauge whether this game just has janky controls, or if this is simply a product of playing an extremely dated first-person shooter. And yeah, if you didn't know already, this game is a first-person shooter, which was an interesting choice to say the least. After doing some research, it turns out that this game is actually built using a modified version of the game engine used in Turok 2: Seeds of Evil. So basically, this entire game is a modded version of Turok. I guess you gotta do what you gotta do to get the game out in time for Christmas. As you saw, we have encountered our first enemy, turkeys, which is reminiscent of the episode Starvin' Marvin from the very first season of the show. The boys have been assembled. We take a stroll past South Park Elementary and head into a Renaissance fair. We see loads of people running for their lives from the turkeys, so we press forward to eliminate some more of them. There really isn't much to this game at all, at least in the beginning. It's literally just running around South Park throwing snowballs at turkeys. But as someone who recently played through this entire game, I can say with certainty, this is actually as good as it gets. I think you'll see what I mean soon enough. I'm just happy that the turkeys are pretty easy to hit. They're a moderate size, and are at a very convenient height where you don't really need to aim up or down, you just line up a shot and blast them. After making it through the Renaissance Fair, we are out in the snowy mountains. All we need to do is follow the red arrow signs and eliminate the enemies in our way. I enter a small cave and find a few floating items, an energy drink that speeds up our movement, and some cheesy poofs that refill our health. Good to know. The turkeys out here are attacking in bigger and bigger numbers, and the game is starting to strangely remind me of Left 4 Dead. I find myself backstepping away from the horde and trying to pick them off one by one in order to avoid being surrounded. It's honestly pretty fun. After moving forward a bit, I realized you can actually change your ammo type. By pressing one of the directional buttons, you can change your regular snowballs into pea snowballs. They fire more slowly, but they deal quite a bit more damage, as well as emitting a small splash so you don't need to be as direct. That's pretty cool. It adds a bit more depth and strategy to the gameplay. Though I have to say at this point this is a cakewalk and the regular snowballs work just fine. We climb a hill and enter a cabin where we find a new weapon: dodgeballs. These are probably my favorite weapon in this game, and I think it's a bit of clever design that they introduce you to them in the closed space of the cabin. Upon throwing one, you can see that not only does it kill the turkey, but the dodgeball continues to bounce around for a second or two. And just like the snowballs, we can also switch ammo types with the dodgeballs. You can switch between a regular throw and a fast throw. The fast throw reaches the target much faster, but doesn't seem to bounce around for nearly as long. Seems like a fair trade-off. We wade through waves and waves of turkeys and eventually we cross the finish line. First level completed. We're shown a screen that tells us how many kills we got, and then we continue. Upon starting the next level, we make our way into Chef's Love Shack. He explains that the turkeys are mutants and are being birthed from larger turkeys.
You want to take out the big turkeys, and the rest won't be much of a problem. But if you really want to put an end to these turkey bastards, you've got to follow them back to their source. Got it?
Got it.
We're given an objective to destroy the larger turkeys and find their stronghold. For quite a while, it's just more of the same. Just pressing forward and killing turkeys with snowballs and the occasional dodgeball. And while it is fun taking them out, it's getting a little boring. Until eventually we head up a hill and find a big old turkey tank. These guys are basically like a mini-boss. They have loads more health than the regular guys and they can poop out a few smaller ones at will. So it's a good idea to focus your energy on taking them out as quickly as possible. You can see from the rapidly depleting health bar that the dodgeballs do tons of damage to them. Big turkey down. But 10 feet later, another one. And shortly after that, another one. And another one. I'm starting to realize something. This is just the exact same thing we were doing, but with a slight variation of having the occasional big guy to take out. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Escalation is a good thing in games. It's natural to turn up the heat a little bit. The problem is that it's literally the only change. We're still just walking through the bland-looking mountains taking out waves of turkeys. It's just now we have to stop occasionally for about 10 to 15 seconds to take out a big one. The scenery is just a bore to look at. Plain brown walls, plain snowy ground, occasional river to jump or ladder to climb. It's just not very engaging. We crossed the finish line to complete the second level, and while I did mention that it's getting a bit boring, I'm not ready to give up on this game yet. Maybe soon they'll really mix things up. Well, it's level 3 time. And hey, something new straight out of the gate. A new weapon, the plunger gun. We switched to it and we're Cartman now? I had wondered how exactly I switched between the 4 characters. I assumed that each character had some sort of perk. A special ability perhaps. Maybe Cartman could use his big fat ass to bump into enemies and knock them back.
How could I resist an ass so great?
Or Kenny could light a fart and throw some fire.
Holy shit!
But no, some weapons can only be used by certain characters, so switching to the plunger gun brings Cartman to the forefront. Doesn't really make any sense to me, and it's actually completely inconsistent. In this level, Cartman uses the plunger gun, but later on it's Kyle? It just seems like a very odd way to include all 4 of the boys. Like I said, I think every character having a unique ability and being able to swap between them with the directional pad would have made things a lot more fun. So right away we're back to the same old grind of just walking forward and killing any turkey or tank that gets near us. Except this time the objective is slightly different. At the very beginning of the level there was a floating South Park sign. The tanks are trying to make their way to that point so they can enter the town of South Park and try to destroy it. We have to do everything we can to stop them from reaching that point, and man are they abundant. I do have to praise the change of scenery. This level primarily takes place in the caves that serve as the mutant turkey stronghold, and the plunger gun is actually pretty cool. It fires somewhat slowly, but much like a bow and arrow, you can reclaim your plungers if you find them on the ground. And it has a neat feature of being able to shoot 3 at once. It reminds me a lot of the plasma cutter from Dead Space, and if you get a direct hit, it absolutely decimates these turkey tanks. So far, this game is not really all that challenging. The biggest hurdle is working with the very dated controls. The turkeys are easy to eliminate, and even if they get close to you, they hardly do any damage. The tanks even frequently drop health upon death. Ammo for the guns is somewhat scarce, but at this point it's not really a huge issue. If you're the type of person who likes to conserve your ammo, well, you'll have a lot of fun pelting the same tank over and over with snowballs for a good 20 seconds straight. Upon traveling through a short tunnel, we find yet another new type of weapon. It's a sort of Nerf dart Gatling gun, and to be honest, I don't care for it. It goes through ammo very quickly, and if you hit the fire button even once, you're firing about 10 shots. There's no way to stop it. It does do a decent amount of damage to the tanks though. The alternate ammo type for this one is a big Nerf missile, but it takes forever to load, so I never even bothered to use it. After navigating tons of caves and killing more turkeys and tanks than I could even count, we climb up a ladder and enter our very first boss fight. A gate opens and out comes the mother turkey. Well, I was excited to see what a boss fight would be like in this game, but this one is so dull it hurts. I throw a few snowballs at it and nothing happens. But after a few seconds it moves enough to expose a target on its butt. Well, that's obviously the weak spot. So after throwing a few more snowballs at the target, yep, down goes a little bit of its health. I'm sure that'll piss it off and it will do something really cool. Nope, It just kicks its feet a few times and with its life bar drained, just walks away, killing Kenny in the process. Well, I guess we're not done with the Turkey Mother yet. Stage 4 consists of the boss heading towards South Park and we need to stop it before it gets there. Sounds like a fun challenge. Well, once again I find myself disappointed. All we do is follow behind this thing and awkwardly aim at it to pelt it in the ass with everything we have. The only thing the boss does to defend itself is fire some weird pink laser thing behind it. And most of the time it comes nowhere near you. Even when it does, it still doesn't do enough damage to be cause for alarm. We very quickly whittled the Turkey Mother down to the last bit of its health, and for some reason that I cannot even compute, the boss just sits down and starts playing keep away with its ass. I'm just running in circles around this thing trying to get a few clean shots in, and finally it just unceremoniously combusts like an absolute dumbass. That was really bad. I don't have anything good to say about it. There was no challenge, no unique gameplay, nothing noteworthy. The boys then sit down for a Thanksgiving feast of turkey, and that's the end of the episode. Well, I hope episode 2 will be a nice change of pace. While this game so far is far from the worst that I've ever played, I can't really say it's fun. We continue when we see another short cutscene of Chef talking to the boys. Apparently now there's mutant clones walking around South Park that we need to deal with. And again, we need to find our friends. I think I'm starting to sense a formula here. The first enemy we encounter is a mutant clone of Big Gay Al, and he takes 3 dodgeballs to kill. That's about as much as one of the tanks took to kill in the last episode. And that's just a regular enemy. Seems like a pretty steep increase. But it appears that there's less enemies overall, so maybe that will balance things out. We search around for a bit and find another new weapon, Terrence and Phillip dolls. These things are amazing, but somewhat hard to come by. They're basically like poison grenades. Upon throwing one, it emits a cloud of gas that absolutely destroys anything standing in it, including yourself. They've thrown us right into the thick of it this time. We've already got tanks that are trying to make it to the school, and while my aim was definitely way off, these guys could take a beating before they go down. I'm trying like hell to make it down the street far enough to find all the boys, but it seems like every 20 feet of progress I make, I then encounter another tank surrounded by 3 to 4 regular clones. And they are booking it to the school, so taking them out has a decent sense of urgency. Finally, we're able to reach Kenny, and again we have picked up all 4 friends. And I've already gone through most of my ammo, so I decided to take a quick look around for some more, but before I know it, there's 2 more tanks hauling ass towards the school. This shit is straight up frustrating. The tanks keep pooping out more of the small guys, and all I have at my disposal now are the snowballs, which do basically nothing to the tanks. So 2 of them managed to slip past me and make it to the school, but surprisingly there was no punishment for letting this happen. At the very least, the clones still don't do much damage to me, but taking them out with the snowballs is just a slog. I head back to where we found Kenny so I can start to progress through the level a bit more, and god damn it, there's another tank. So here we go, backtracking all the way back to the starting point. Again, just pelting it with snowball after snowball. But this time we managed to take the tank out before he makes it to the school. We head back to where we were and progress about 10 more feet before, you guessed it, another tank. This whole section is just backtracking over and over again. And there's nowhere near enough ammo around to manage the enemies effectively. Eventually I say screw it and I just run past them to see what lies up ahead. After all, I already let 2 tanks get past me and there didn't seem to be any sort of punishment. We reach a warehouse where I find some armor. Like any good Doom-inspired FPS, the armor gives you a little bit of extra health. But after looking around, I realize that there's no way to move forward. And then 2 more tanks spawn seemingly out of nowhere. And we're back to following them across the town trying to stop them with nothing but snowballs. After eliminating another tank, I see a small text pop up that says door opened. Okay, now it's starting to make sense. There's a limited number of these guys in this area, and the doors remain closed until they're all either defeated or make it past me. I feel like that was not really conveyed at all. But now we can move forward, so I'm not complaining. And look at that, it's the finish line. We did it. The level complete screen tells us that we let 3 tanks escape, and upon loading into the next level, we are back in the town of South Park where there's 3 tanks trying to destroy the town. There's a meter in the top left corner that shows us how much damage they've done to the town, so we need to eliminate them all before they destroy the place entirely. Now it all makes sense. This level is a punishment for letting some of them pass me, and I actually really like this. Sure, the last level was pretty much bullshit. They just threw an overwhelming number of tanks at us and gave us not nearly enough ammo, but the fact that they make you deal with your failure to manage them is actually pretty smart. Luckily, I now have a decent amount of ammo for the plunger gun, and that makes pretty quick work of them. The town is saved.
Did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
So now we can move on to stage 2 of the episode. We're back in the warehouses and immediately have some clones that need to be dealt with. At least now there's some variation. We see some clones of Jimbo and Officer Barbrady. Chef stops by again to drop some ham-fisted exposition. We need to find where the clones are coming from. He says they come out of a building with a strange green glow.
Clones pick me up.
Once again, we are immediately being bombarded with a seemingly never-ending supply of tanks. And again, they're trying to make it to the town. At least they've given us a few more plungers and dodgeballs to help take them out. Each few tanks we kill opens up another warehouse door. There's more ammo in each warehouse, but upon entering each one, it triggers more tanks to spawn. And every warehouse is closer and closer in proximity to the point they're trying to reach, so the time you have to kill them is reduced as you progress. So far, so good. We managed to eliminate them all with only one of them making it to the town. We then head up a ladder inside the last warehouse. There's lots of dodgeballs in here, so we get a very much needed restock. I see a green hatch in the floor, so we drop down and trigger a cutscene. The boys find some kind of alien device and throw a single snowball at it.
Shut the up and kill it.
Level completed. But we did let one tank escape, so we're back to the penalty level. Same thing as before, we just need to stop them before they destroy the town entirely. But it's just one guy this time, so it's over in no time. We're on to stage 3, where we're told the mother clone is at a nearby museum. We need to find it and eliminate it. Sounds like another boss fight. I really hope this one has more substance than the last one. Again, we battle our way through town, taking out hordes of clones until we reach the museum. And good God, it's a huge revolting blob. I started hurling dodgeballs at it, but much like the last boss, nothing happens. It must also have a weak spot, and common sense will tell you that it's probably the big bulging eyeball. The problem is that it's extremely difficult to hit. The eyeball sits just slightly above your regular throw. Trying to aim upwards just slightly is an absolute nightmare. The aim is so jumpy and wants to revert back to the center. In fact, it's so hard to hit that I die for the first time here. Well, so much for this game being a cakewalk. We try again, but this time I have a strategy. We can lure the boss to shoot its eyeball at us and maybe hit it when it's nice and close to us. This works pretty well, except for one glaring flaw. There is practically no way to avoid taking damage. Most of the time it shoots the eyeball slightly past you, so you only have a split second to hit it as it once again retracts. And this thing won't stop shitting out more clones that do nothing but get in the way. But eventually we throw one last dodgeball and the mother clone is no more. I actually like the concept for this boss, but the execution is just so poor. The hitbox on the boss's weak spot is just way too small. The endlessly spawning clones are just nothing but an annoying nuisance, and the whole fight as a whole just feels janky and broken. I'm just glad it's over and done with. Maybe the next episode will be an improvement. Well, we're back to Chef, who tells us the alien visitors are here.
I think the alien visitors are back.
Don't worry, Chef. We'll take care of it. Yeah, let's go kick their asses. Do aliens have asses?
And immediately once more we need to find our friends. Well, after scooping them up and picking up some ammo, it's time to fight some cows. I guess the aliens have possessed them and turned them hostile. Much like the turkeys, they are pretty damn abundant. However, unlike the turkeys, they take a good 5 snowballs to kill even one of them. And they are not conveniently within your shooting range. They're slightly shorter, so to hit them you need to aim a bit downwards. In any other game this would not be an issue, but in this game it's crippling. This time the tanks are flying alien saucers, which means they're way up in the sky. They drop off more cows, so you're constantly playing this back and forth game of trying to take out the cows, and then very awkwardly aiming straight up in the air to try to hit the saucers. And again, there is a major increase in the amount of health these things have. It takes so much ammo to take out even one of them. And a lot of the time it doesn't even register a clear hit. It's just terrible and frustrating. Speaking of frustration, this game has the worst jump of any game I've ever played. I'm not joking. Look at this shit. Over and over, I try and fail to make a series of simple jumps up this cliff. And upon making it to the top, there's an alien just waiting there to fuck your shit up. Good lord, that is actually terrifying. And I fall again. And again. And again. I'm not joking. It took a good 15 minutes just to make it up this cliff. Finally, we make it. Just one more long stretch of land between us and the finish, as well as another 50 or so cows and a couple more tanks. But finally, we managed to cross the finish line. This game is getting worse and worse as it goes on. This time, 5 tanks made it past, so it's time for another penalty round. We have 5 alien saucers to take out before they destroy the place, and all I have at my disposal are snowballs. I mean shit, it took everything I had just to make it past the last level. Now I have to awkwardly aim up at each one of them and pelt them with snowballs for what feels like eons. To make matters worse, the saucers now shoot lasers at you if you get too close. And they do not miss. There is no way to dodge them, but you have to get close. It's the only way to reliably hit them. If the alien decides to shoot a laser at you, you're getting hit. So of course, we die. And we're back to the very start? We have to do the entire thing over again, wade through waves and waves of cows and alien saucers, climb up the jankiest platforming section to ever grace video games, get wrecked by the alien at the top, and then make it across the finish line again. We made it again, and this time luckily only 4 tanks made it past us. But once more, I'm down to pretty much only snowballs. Luckily, I found a nice sweet spot and just pelt the first one with piss snowballs until it goes down. But unfortunately, we couldn't dodge the lasers and I die once more. At this point, I was entirely frustrated and walked away from the game for a while. But I have to finish this. I have to complete this nightmare, at the very least so that I can share this with others and warn them never to play this game. Again, with gritted teeth and some tenacity, we make it through the first level, but once again, 4 tanks still made it past us. I am determined to eliminate them all this time, and to be honest with you, I wanted so very badly to state at the beginning of this video that I would not be using any save states. But at this point, I gave in. There is no way in hell I am going through that level again if I fail to save the town. So I'm using save states in an attempt to keep a few years on my life from all the stress this janky game is causing me. This time I saved as much ammo as possible. The plunger gun works wonders on whittling down their health, and very quickly 2 of the 4 are down. I use a cow launcher that I found in the previous level to do some decent damage to the 3rd one. The cow launcher is pretty powerful, but they are very rare to happen upon, and it has a very long delay in firing, so it's hard to land a good hit with them. And with some well-placed dodgeballs, down go the last 2. Thank God. What fresh hell awaits us now? We find Chef's Love Shack again, which seems to just teleport around the land at will, and he explains to us that we need to find the mothership.
Those visitors are doing everything they can to keep you away from that mothership. That's where all the little ships are coming from.
Damn, those aliens are clever.
After exploring for a minute, we find Mr. Hanky. Upon picking him up, he circles around us. I'm honestly not sure what he does. I'm just assuming he blocks some shots from hitting us for a certain amount of time. There's not much to say about this level that I haven't already said. It's just more of the same. Navigating the mountains, killing swarms of cows, and trying to take out the saucers. The only difference is that we now run into more alien visitors. And these bastards are skinny as a rail and are hard to hit because of that. We make it across the finish line without too much hassle. This time I just didn't give a shit at all, and a whopping 14 tanks escaped. Well, I guess the game took pity on me, or just simply can't load that many tanks at once, because the penalty level only has 6. The Terrence and Phillip dolls do great work here. They absolutely destroy these things' health, so we managed to make it through another penalty level without much issue. We've now made it to the mothership, but of course it's completely surrounded by hostile aliens. We are given absolutely no direction on what to do, so I'm at a complete loss. I had assumed I needed to either fire some shots at the ship or get myself close enough to board it, but nothing seems to happen. I even make my way right up to the front door of the mothership. Nothing. Also, for some reason, we're now playing as Kenny. No explanation. We find another new weapon that I actually really like. It's the Sniper Chicken. It's a chicken that fires eggs from its ass. And man does it do damage. It just takes quite a bit of precision to land your shots, which is understatedly difficult to do in this game. So I find myself just meandering around this place, killing alien after alien, and watching more spawn right where I just killed the last one. I can't figure out what the hell I'm supposed to be doing. Can't damage the ship, can't go into the door, what the hell? And look at this stupidity. Well, after killing what feels like 100 or so aliens, one of them drops a key and the level just sort of ends. God, it would have been real nice for them to spell out the objective just a little bit. I had no clue that I was supposed to simply kill as many of them as possible. From my perspective, it seemed like they were just going to spawn infinitely, until I figured out where to go. Well, at least now we can board the mothership and progress. We're now on the ship and our task is to find the center and destroy it. Again, I enjoy the change of scenery. This place actually looks pretty cool and it reminds me a bit of the library level in Halo. And of course, there are aliens in pretty much every room. At the very least, they die from one well-placed dodgeball. But again, they're very hard to hit due to their rail-thin bodies. And they do not skimp on the damage. These guys drain your health very quickly. To make matters worse, the cheesy poos that act as our health are becoming more and more scarce to find. I do not understand the design logic. It's like the difficulty increases exponentially, and instead of balancing it out with an abundance of supplies, they take more and more away. Like they're just adding insult to injury. There's one room that when you enter, a bunch of turkeys come running at you. I only mention this because I was so happy to see them again. The only decent enemy of the game is back, but only for that one brief moment. And guess what? More platforming. There's a few rooms that don't necessarily require you to jump around on the crates, but that's where all the loot is, so if you want to restock, you gotta get ready for some frustrating jumps. Well, after making it through numerous rooms of bullshit alien encounters, I've once again pretty much exhausted all of my ammo supplies, which is just fantastic because now we're at the final boss of this episode. This has to be the single dumbest boss I've ever seen. It's just a floating orb in the center of the room. Wow. If you attack it, it charges up some electricity and tries to zap you. So of course, since all I really have is snowballs, we die. Head through the entire level once more, and we're back to the boss room with nothing left but snowballs again. Awesome! Well, here's the thing. I saw more ammo in one of the previous rooms. I just couldn't reach it, and I can't figure out how to get on top of this damn bus. After trying for a while, I realized that you can just jump against the side of the bus until you get close enough and grab it. I gotta love when a game is just so utterly broken that it occasionally works to your advantage. Hopefully that'll be enough ammo to deal with this stupid boss. We go back in for another try. Here's the strategy to beat this boss. You ready? Hide behind the pillar, and when it finishes shooting electricity, pop out and take a few shots. Hide behind the pillar, wait, take a few shots. Over and over and over and over, until I'm back to having nothing but pissed snowballs, and every shot takes only the tiniest little smidge of this thing's health away. This is so bad it hurts. We repeat this over and over until the boss finally dies a shitty death. And it's not even satisfying. The boss was a ball of electricity. I have no qualms with it. At least now the aliens have been dealt with for good. We're heading into episode 4 now, and I am running out of steam. Chef explains that we now have robots on our hands, and we need to stop them again.
Damn it, when the hell is this gonna stop? First it's the turkeys and the asshole clones and aliens. I'm sick of all this. Whoa, dude, calm down.
We're back to the same formula. It's the same shit over and over. Find your friends, stop the tanks, make your way to the finish. It's so damn formulaic. There's nothing interesting, no passion, no creativity. The only thing I actually enjoy about this section, ironically, is how much of a pain in the ass these robots are to deal with. Just like the alien ships, these robots fire unavoidable lasers at you. But I quickly figured out you can stand just outside their range and snipe them with whatever you've got. Each encounter feels like an ordeal, and it strangely reminds me of something like The Last of Us. Just a very watered down and completely stupid version of that. We also find a new gun that I actually really like. It's a sort of semi-automatic rifle, but it shoots fish. Or lasers if you switch to the ammo type, which I never really bothered to do because it just consumes way too much ammo. And at this point, ammo is like gold. The snowballs don't do shit to anything anymore. Also, it was around this time that I took a look in the menu and realized that you could indeed enable an aiming reticle. Not sure why that wasn't turned on by default, but all the same, I'm relieved to have it. The tanks this time are larger robots and are really only vulnerable on their front hatch. But I do think it's a fair trade-off. While it can be tricky to hit the right spot, doing so causes quite a bit of damage to them. Again, the best weapon for dealing with these guys are the Terrence and Phillip dolls, but there's such an overwhelming number of enemies. I again said screw it and tried to run forward to progress as much as possible, except I found myself at a closed gate. Well, the only way to open it is just to either stand there and wait for the tanks to reach the town, or run all the way back and try to catch up to them before they make it. And honestly, even if I hadn't just run past them, sometimes they just slip by you anyway, and they are not slow by any means, so you have to chase them all the way back to the start to try to stop them. Again, it's not fun, it's just constant backtracking. But we finally make it to the goal and can move on to the next level. And hey, I managed to not let a single tank escape that time. No penalty level. After starting the next level, we again find Chef's Love Shack, and get a brief explanation from Chef that the robots are coming from a factory near Stark's Pond.
Come on, hurry up and go take care of those robots.
So I guess that's where we're heading. This level does nothing new whatsoever. It's literally the same exact thing as the last level, just with a slightly different landscape. So it's not even worth saying anything about. It's just more wandering through tunnels, standing back as far as possible to pick off the laser shooting robots and moving forward. However, we did manage to let one tank escape, so it's back to the penalty level to deal with the one lone robot tank. And again, the next level is just more of the exact same thing. At first, anyway. Upon reaching the factory, we actually have a pretty cool boss to contend with. We very slowly and strategically fight our way inside the factory, and we can see a few big robot heads on top of a conveyor belt spitting out robot minions. The objective is to destroy the heads on top, and with the sniper chicken they go down with 2 well-placed shots. But pretty much every other gun does almost nothing to them, so patience is key. Luckily there's some high up vantage points where you're safe to just plug away at them until they blow up. However, this boss overstays its welcome. After killing the first 2 robot heads, a door opens to the next room, and there's another one. After dumping all my ammo into it, it finally goes down as well. I quickly search around for some more health and more ammo before we enter the next room to find the real final boss of this area. Mr. Hat? I know Mr. Hat can get into some wild adventures, but what the hell does he have to do with any of this? Still, I suppose I commend the developers' attempt to include as many of South Park's characters as they could, but there's nothing special about this boss. It's no different from any of the other countless robot tanks we've already faced. It just has a larger health bar. The only obstacle this boss fight throws at you is having to avoid the smaller robots in order to focus fully on the boss. Luckily I have some sniper chicken ammo and it just demolishes the thing. This gun, or rather chicken, is so damn overpowered. And down goes Mr. Hat. I guess the boys rescue Jimbo and Ned off screen. They all come walking out of the warehouse where Jimbo thanks the boys, and then out of nowhere a robot head crushes Kenny. That's the end of chapter 4. And we're moving on to the final chapter. Thank God. I can't take much more of this game. Chef explains that the comet is nearing South Park and that it's all going to come to a head tonight, which somehow now means we have to fight killer toys. So we're back by the school and one last time we need to round up the boys. I'll say it now, this is the worst chapter of this game by far. Most of the enemies are so damn small that you have to aim downwards to hit them. In most games this wouldn't matter, but because of the way the aiming reticle wants to pull itself back to the center of the frame, it's just a frustrating nightmare. This section is pretty similar to many of the previous ones. We've got to eliminate all the enemies, and eventually one of the SWAT trucks that are blocking the road will move so we can advance forward. And I'm really just speeding through this at this point because there really isn't all that much difference between each episode, aside from the type of enemy that you fight. But trust me, this entire section is nothing short of stressful. After making it through a few blockades, we get to take a look at the tanks of this episode. They're huge Jack-in-the-Boxes, and they do terrible impressions of Jack Nicholson.
You're using my oxygen.
It's been painfully obvious through this whole game that Matt Stone and Trey Parker had very little to do with the writing, but this really just hammers it home. I mean, what the hell is that? What's the joke even? It's a Jack-in-the-Box, so it talks like Jack Nicholson. Jack. Clever. They're not the hardest to deal with, but they're certainly not pushovers. The only way to damage them is to hit Jack when he pops out of the box. And again, the OP Sniper Chicken absolutely destroys them. 2 shots is all it takes. We make it across the finish line and we've reached the toy shop. Well, almost. Upon starting the second stage of episode 5, we are tasked with making it through the gigantic parking lot of the toy store. And mind you, that's all it says for our task. Navigate Hell's parking lot, gain entrance to the toy store. So it's just more of the same shit. Wade through waves of annoying enemies and advance through the slaloming parking lot. At the very least, I enjoy all these hidden areas where you can find and obtain more ammo and health. It rewards a little exploration, but without it you'd be screwed, so I guess it's more like it penalizes those who don't explore enough. Eventually we find the entrance of the toy store. And there's no way in. So again, we find ourselves just wondering what to do. Is there a way to open these doors, or do we just need to hold out against an onslaught of tanks? And I mean it when I say onslaught. There are so many tanks here. They just keep coming. I was starting to think I was doing something wrong because they just wouldn't stop spawning. There must have been at least 15 of them. And again, they're easy to take out with the Sniper Chicken, but that ammo goes by fast, and it's hard to find more. But after many attempts at this level, and depleting pretty much all the ammo I have, the front doors of the toy store open and we complete the level. We're in the semi-finals now. We just need to make it through the actual toy store, which is no easy feat considering we're already low on ammo, and every damn room in this place has its very own tank, which you have to kill to get the doors to the next room to open. The thing that really makes these tanks in particular so hard to deal with is that their movement is so unpredictable. It's really hard to line up a shot when you don't know which way they're about to jump or roll, but eventually we make it through with nothing left but snowballs, a few plungers, and some Sniper Chicken ammo. And it's final boss time. It's an Optimus Prime Power Rangers robot thing. Why? This boss makes the Turkey Mother and the floating alien orb look like well-designed and thought-out antagonists. This thing is an abomination of game design. The goal here is to hit the big robot in its weak spot. Where is that exactly? Who the hell really knows? I honestly couldn't tell you. Sometimes it seems to work when you hit it in its chest, or its stomach, or its back. And sometimes it just doesn't. I mean, look at this shit. That was a direct hit and the game just said nope. And sometimes the thing just keeps unintentionally blocking shots with its own hands. I can look past the janky hitboxes, but here's the problem that really cranks the bullshit up to 11. Once you've damaged this guy enough, it runs back over to its charging station and heals itself, all the way back to full if you let it. Your goal here is to hit the button and make him stop before he can fully heal himself. But that button can be just as janky. There were times where I shot that button dead on and the game just said nope, didn't count, and he kept healing anyways. Not to mention half his attacks are bullshit. If he decides to shoot you with a laser, you're getting shot with a laser. I've tried running away, hiding behind boxes, nothing works. Save states really helped me out here. I don't think I could have done it without them, while keeping my sanity intact at least. I tried this shit over and over and over again. I even managed to break the game's AI at one point. The only way I was eventually able to beat this thing was that I figured out how to manipulate its programming. I figured out that by standing exactly in this corner, he can't hit you with his charge move, so you're mostly safe. Once he turns to run back to his charging station, we have an opportunity to end this shit heap. All I need is to land enough well-placed sniper chicken shots in its back, and it's over. I tried this again and again, and eventually, we did it! So what do we get now that we've survived the gauntlet of terrible controls and horrendous enemy design? We get a cutscene of Cartman at home playing with his toys and yelling at his cat.
Eric is so strong and brave. He is so cute. Hey, that's cute, isn't it? Shut up, Teddy, you dildo! I'm a hero!
And then a short congratulations from Chef before a safe falls on Kenny.
Congratulations, children! The comet is gone and you saved the world from despair and destruction.
And roll credits. That's it. That's how the game ends. So again I ask, does South Park 64 deserve its reputation of being awful? Yes. Yes it does. Very much so. I wanted to like this game. I really did. I love South Park, and I went into this with memories of playing it as a child and having a decent time with it. But sorry, child me, this game is truly terrible. There's just too much wrong with it to look past. The controls are absolute garbage. The enemies are either a cakewalk or are infuriatingly difficult. There's almost no middle ground. Ammo is either not needed or way too scarce. The scenery for the most part is just a bore to look at, the bosses are a complete joke, and the characters are just lifeless and dull. Above all else, this being a South Park game, you'd expect some solid humor, of which there is none. The main joke of the game is, look how Kenny died. Isn't that funny how dead he is? The only time this game made me laugh at all was in the very beginning. Chef's line delivery of,
Our lives are in danger!
It really sucks because there was so much potential here. I know the Nintendo 64 was limited, but look at something like Conker's Bad Fur Day. Sure, that game also suffers from dated shooting mechanics, but they're still miles better than this, as well as having loads of fully animated cutscenes with well-written dialogue. Again, I guess a game like South Park 64 is what happens when companies want to take advantage of the rising popularity of a property and quickly push something out in time for Christmas. I'm just glad we later got some good South Park games. I love the Stick of Truth and the Fractured Butthole. In fact, the whole reason I made this video is because of the reveal trailer for the newest South Park game. A lot of people have been making comparisons between South Park 64 and the upcoming Snow Day game. There have been some pretty mixed opinions about it, but I can say with certainty that whatever Snow Day ends up being, it will certainly be better than South Park 64. I'm going to move on with my life now and try to push this game far out of my mind. So what's your opinion? Do you agree with me that this game is a train wreck, or does it have a special place in your heart? Let me know down in the comments. All things considered, I did have a lot of fun making this video, and I'm excited to be making some more like it. So if that's your kind of thing, then consider subscribing. Until next time, I'll see ya.